Coming up next, a band who revolutionized 60s rock with a rebellious psychedelic spirit had to change when the decade ended and turned into the 70s. They transformed in the classic rock 70s with a more accessible sound, bringing in a singer that has since become one of the greatest rock voices of our time. Up next, this rock voice tells us the grandiose story of that period when they added another title to their band name and had this massive rock radio staple, as well as another member from the group. Coming up on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you ever overstretched your Stretch Armstrong doll as a kid, you're going to dig this channel. It's 24/7 nostalgia. Just subscribe below so that you never miss out on our daily features, our history, our interviews, our videos, straight from the legends. So I'm really excited to bring you another episode from our series Revelations. I always love this program. This is where featured artists reveal rare stories about their biggest songs, along with fascinating insight about their career. On this installment of Revelations, I'm really pleased to bring you an episode featuring David Freiberg of Jefferson Starship from a recent Zoom session that we did, and as well as some great insight from rock vocal specter Mickey Thomas, one of the greats. In my mind, he's just one of the greatest vocalists of the 70s and 80s. He currently fronts Starship featuring Mickey Thomas, and he's still got the goods. Here both David and Mickey give us the story behind the creation and inspiration behind the classic rock standard Jane, a song that is on classic rock radio every single day. David also gives us the details on Jefferson Starship's first album in 12 years. It was released a little while back. And that's where our story begins on Revelations. Jefferson Starship, tell me how that came together after Marty Ballin and Grace had left the band and they were kind of going through some changes there. How did that come together?
Well, they were going through some changes.
Yeah, well, we had lost, that was after this tour we did in Germany, where this European tour, and we lost both Marty and Grace. Grace to go combat, alcohol, and Marty because he's Marty, and he always would do. I don't know. Marty always wanted to do what Marty wanted to do, and there is nothing wrong with that. He proved that.
Marty, Grace had both left the band. The drummer, John Barbado, had gotten into a serious car crash right about the same time, and he was going to be laid up for years. Unable to play drums. So there was really a lot of question about whether or not the Jefferson Starship would even try to continue on. But the remaining members, Paul Kantner, Craig Chiquiso, Pete Sears, David Freiberg decided, okay, we want to stick together. We're going to try to reinvent the band. And so they brought Ainsley Dunbar in on drums.
Journey.
Journey, and played with Whitesnake, David Bowie, John Mayall, way back. So then the five of them all started jamming together, and then they're like, well, we need a singer. So, and they were all based in San Francisco. I was still living in San Francisco right after I'd left the Elvin Bishop band, getting ready to go do As Long As You Love. No, actually, I'd already done As Long As You Love Me. I was getting ready for my second solo album with Bill Simzik. And so I get a phone call, really, just out of the blue from the band saying, hey, would you be interested in coming by and meeting the guys and hanging out and doing a little jamming and possibly singing with the band? I'm like, Jefferson Starship? And, I'm fresh out of the Elvin Bishop band. So I'm thinking like, how does this work?
Yeah.
How does this go together? Because that's not I knew who they were, but Jefferson Starship was not exactly my cup of tea.
Exactly.
At that point in time. So I was very hesitant about even giving it a shot. Because like I said, I was just getting ready to go to Miami and start another solo album. So then the more hesitant I was, the more they kind of interpreted that as, oh, this guy's playing hard to get, which I really wasn't.
Yeah.
And so the more I said no, the more they wanted me. So finally I said, well, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I went by and met the guys. We hung out in Paul Kantner's living room and we jammed some, and they played me some of the new songs they were working on, one of them, which was Jane.
So I had written this song with my friend Jim McPherson, That was the guy that played with Pete Sears, and and it was about a friend of mine whose name wasn't Jane.
Yeah, I was inspired by your experience with an old flame. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still friends with her today, actually.
Mm.
Actually, you read all about it. She wrote a book. And nothing. I mean, she's bigger than. She's more than just Jane. She's a fantastic person, actually. But anyway, when you start writing the song, it leaves reality. And it becomes the song instead.
Well, the lyrics says the game. What is the game that Jane's playing that she can never win? I've always been curious about that.
Running around. Let's just say my wife Jane was loved by a lot of people. Not that I wasn't guilty too. We changed the name. She changed her name to Jane Doe to protect the guilty.
Well, I also love the lyric in the bridge where it says, "For all those nights spent together only because you didn't know better, I gotta know." I love that. Only because you didn't know better, I gotta know. Great lyric writing there.
I think that's Jim's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's a great lyricist. Was a really good songwriter. He's passed away too, way too long ago. Way too young. He was a magnificent person. Yeah. No, man, that was pretty much what we used. We figured we needed another male singer. And so that was the tryout song. Whoever sang that song best and there wasn't anybody that was going to sing it better than Mickey. So
incredible vocal.
Incredible singer.
I think he's one of the most underappreciated singers of that time because, man, he could just wail.
Yeah. He's Mr. Gospel.
So when I first sang Jane with the band, I thought, oh boy, this is not anything like the Jefferson Starship that I had heard or knew of in my mind. And I thought, this is pretty cool. We may have something here. So it was really pretty much Jane that did it for me.
Another great song, great vocal. How did that kind of come together as a song? Tell me a little bit about that.
It was kind of in its rough stage when I first started jamming with the band and rehearsing it. And we kind of, it sort of evolved over the course of a couple of weeks. David Freiberg kind of had the meat of the song. He was the primary writer on it.
Right.
But then we would all kind of add our embellishments to it.
And Craig Chiquiso, I think he'd been listening to Toto a lot, or some harder rock things, because that's his arrangement. I mean, he pretty much figured out just about what everybody should play. I wrote the changes in the melody, and Jim and I wrote the words, but that's Craig's arrangement. Absolutely. That's why he's got writing credit there too. So, and that's Paul's little intro lick. That's why he's in there too.
I think that Craig came up with the little intro riff on the guitar, ding 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 ding, and
which was the perfect way to open up Wet Hot American Summer. Remember that song?
Yeah.
That movie when it came on? I love that.
It worked for that, huh?
It did.
And then for the sequel too, I think.
Yeah.
And so it was back in the day when you come in with a song. Usually it was in a skeletal form, and then all the band members would have some input into arranging it and adding their own, individual personality and bits and pieces to it and stuff. So we did that with Jane. I just kind of brought in my sort of combination of Elvin Bishop Band, Gideon Daniels, blues, gospel deal. And it kind of, for some reason, it worked on this sort of hard rock bed that we had going on with Jane.
Yeah. Quite a departure, like we said, from Jefferson Starship.
Well, I think I was so lucky, really, with the influences that I had, with Gideon and Elvin, because I was kind of coming from a different place than a lot of other rock singers were in the late 70s and early 80s. I kind of it gave me a little bit of a unique vibe there. And then, so in my own mind, I said, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. I'll give them 3 years and 2 albums, and then I'll be off to something else. So I joined the band, and we went to LA, and we recorded Freedom at Point Zero, and Jane was
right here.
There it is.
Yep.
He's probably 40 years old now, this kid or more. So we did Freedom at Point Zero, came out of the box with Jane. That's the first single, and that was the calling card for the all-new Jefferson Starship. And
well, Jane is another big hit, another great song from that time. Went to number 14, but it went number 6, top 5 on Cashbox, I remember.
Yeah, and it was back in those days, what was just as important really as Billboard Top 40 was, what were called the AOR tracks, album-oriented radio tracks.
Yeah.
Because there was still that FM AM kind of thing
Exactly.
going on back, and FM radio was just as big, but didn't really cater to the Billboard Top 40.
Right.
So anyway, Jane debuted number 1 on those tracks.
Yeah.
Jane was
Massive hit, number 14 on the Hot 100, number 13.
bless its heart. Yeah, bless her heart.
And number 21 in the UK. And that was just incredible. You talk about the incredible vocal, but also, as I understand it, Mickey Thomas was on the short list at the time to be the lead vocalist for Toto before they hired Bobby Kimball. At that
It would have
point.
been great with them.
Was the piano keyboard part in the intro. Do you remember what that was inspired by or how that came about?
16th notes, the ding, 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 ding. That was Craig. What it was inspired by, I don't know. I would assume Hold the Line. I was talking to Steve Luthiker last year, I think, and he said people kept calling him up and saying, I heard your new single. He said, what do you mean? We don't have one out.
Definitely hear a little Hold the Line there. Definitely there's an inspiration there. Well, your final thoughts on Jane. What do you remember when you were recording it and Mickey just nailed that vocal? You guys had to know that was going to be a scorcher, that it was going to be a hit.
Yeah, we always assumed for it. I couldn't, somehow all of us couldn't wait just to see what would happen as soon as we heard it on the radio. And it did exactly what we thought it would, yeah. And Mickey brought Donnie Baldwin into when we had to part ways with Ainsley, because Donnie and Mickey were played in Elvin Bishop's band when Mickey sang and Fooled Around, Fell in Love. And Donnie is still with us today. Matter of fact, we have a new album coming out soon.
In fact, I want to talk about that.
Ooh, I wish I could play it for you. They'd be pissed if I did. It's actually an EP.
EP. Tell me about that.
It fits right in with everything that you would think that Jefferson Starship should be doing. It's politically appropriate, although I wish it had come out about a year ago. It should have come out months before the pandemic happened, that slowed us way down. But it's got a song called It's About Time, which is really, it's about time for women to rule the world. And Grace actually had a hand, is one of the writers on that. Grace and Jude and Kathy wrote it. And there's another one called What Are We Waiting For? Which is, what are we waiting for? We know what we have to do. We can see the problems that we have and we can solve them. They're solvable. So what are we waiting for? Why don't we do it? And that's one of Paul's favorite things. One of his expressions. That's where we.
Oh yeah.
Paul would always say, "What are we waiting for?" When waiting for somebody to start a tune or something, And so we got together in the studio and just kind of jammed around and so far from all the jamming around, so far we've got about 4 or 5 songs that are done, but there's more. There's still more in there, So.
Gosh, I can't wait to hear those.
Sound check will. Because, Kathy lives in Chicago and Jude's operating out of Los Angeles. And so time together is precious, man. We're figuring out how to Zoom it. See, I'm together,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You would always be sitting across from somebody that you were interviewing before, right?
Yeah, had to evolve with the times, right?
You got to do what you can do.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment on Mickey Thomas and David and the Jefferson Starship, this classic song. What are your memories that are tied to this one? You can also get this song and the new Jefferson Starship album and the band's merch by clicking on our Amazon link below. We're going to link to that. It's a great album, this new one. Now, if you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe below, and you can also become a patron for even more content. Help us keep the music alive. That's what it's all about, to keep curating the history of these songs. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Talk to you soon.